And then, sorry. Oh, usually I send Tracer Lucio through Mega Room. Sometimes teams run ball and stuff, and they'll run into him here and get to fight him. And then kind of the core unit of like Kiriko, Cass, and Tank. Tank is usually fighting for this space early on top. My Kiriko, Cass can, as they can, swing main as best they can, while dealing with also helping on this side. And so those are kind of general splits. If my Tracer Lucio are able to like kind of win their lane here, and deep into backline as fast as they can and hit backline at the same time as we can coordinate like a push from the front line. If not, then it'll just kind of be a stalemate depending on how they've set their splits up. And we just have to do our best to coordinate 3-2-1s based on like cooldown advantages that we gained in poke phases. Let's see. Defending. I'm gonna do defending real quick. Say we win first attack. Obviously, this first choke is a little difficult to break because there's not many options besides them rotating all the way around left side. So if we can get set up and we haven't lost anybody, it was a clean fight win. We can hold here safely for a little bit and try to make them. We could force an ult out early, even if they're building ults. It probably will take an ult to build this choke, or it'll take a flank. And in that case, we can set up Tracer either by herself or with the Lucio. And then kind of setting up my Kaskiri to help with choke stuff. From this angle here, should feel pretty good for Kaskiri. Maybe swing it a little closer here, play with the corner here. And so that should force an ult out. If not, if they get some good rotation or good push on the backside, then always we can kite back and play on point. Defense-wise, don't forget, if we don't run cast, if we won Sojourn or Ash or something, or sometimes I've seen teams use On. It was a little interesting. But this coast side for a longer range hit scan is very dangerous. Sojourn Ash with this long walk up through these hallways is going to feel pretty rough for the enemy team. On that note, we could park either our Lucio or our Kiriko. Lucio is a little weird because he himself doesn't feel great here, but the fact is that they're probably going to want to close the distance onto our hit scan that we set up here. And so Lucio can, little Reddit Lucio, look for boobs off the end of the map, fight him here as best he can. Either or that, or just speed his hit scan away from a Tracer Lucio pushing them. And then
this is also that high ground up there is a really strong high ground for Kiriko as well, for the same reason that it's strong for hit scans, because she's able to poke down people.
yes,
and with her being able to stack on the DPS, it's really hard for anybody to push down onto that. So
yes,
it's a really good strategy to have your Kiriko and your Sojourn stack, and then your Kiriko can TP away, Suzu your Sojourn as she slides out, and you're good to go. Or your Ash
absolutely.
you're good to go.
Absolutely. And then this is a good corner for Tank to hold. If there's any ults or anything, we can back up and either play backside of point, or if we can get all the way back inside room mega and like hold this corner until we have to contest again. So we can play this corner, we can play this corner. I'm trying to think.
When you're back, when you're on the okay, go to the front. When you're on the front, holding the first choke, it's important to note that that is not the
Final.
that is not your final kill box.
Yes.
That is not your real kill box. That is a choke point that you're really trying to force them through, and like trying to gain an advantage and do stuff and like get 4 assaults and get a kill or whatever. But it's really important that you do not linger there at all, because you will get walked on, and you will get their spawn is right there. So any kill that you get, and if you stay there, will get it won't get a lot of value unless you go in and int with it. And if you get pushed out, you have way better fights on White Room and back main where you're standing right now. So if you're getting backed out, it's really important that if you get too much pressure, the moment they use their ults, the moment they try and fight you, you back out of there and you're instantly setting on point and on White Room. Because those two, White Room and in front of point, are the most important choke points to hold on this map.
Oh, I see your point. So from this corner, you could kite to. Well, this might be too long of a kite. Would you kite to back?
No, no, that's a good point. That's a good kite.
You could kite to this corner.
Right?
Where's my Tracer? My Tracer is either solo or my Lucio is supporting. I guess in here would feel pretty decent for Lucio and help it.
Ideally
solo.
Well, I mean, if Lucio is not there with her, then if they push through, then you should be a 5 stack getting out. Your Lucio should be with the team getting everybody out, and then your Tracer would be alone. And then if your Tracer need help, then your Kiri would TP in and help in with the Suzu and play a 2v1.
Got it.
2v2. And the Lucio would stack on the Orisa to try and get the Orisa back out of the fight as fast as possible, to cast out as back as possible, so that they don't die to any of the cooldowns on ults that they use, so that they can set up on point and then go back in with better cooldowns, with better ults.
Oh, that's the good point. Yes, we're going to be running like Soldier is something we might run. Obviously, probably not as good as Soldier and Ash, but same long range principle. Cassidy might feel better in White Room. It does run the risk of getting run on, but if we can pop like Lucio with our Cassidy and with our tank here, that should feel pretty good to kite and do a bunch of damage as they try to walk us down. So that's defense and retakes for this one. I'm trying to think if there's any parts that I may have missed. I mentioned Tracer Lucio through here, but like sometimes teams will send balls, sometimes people send Tracer Reapers through here. If you're defending, make sure to note that this attacker side spawn has this flank that some people utilize to break that first choke over there. And then occasionally, very, very rarely, sometimes set up for like a high noon from this angle or something. It takes super long to develop. But yeah, this is the highest point on the map. Really only like, I don't know, high noon, Ash, like long range hit scans, and maybe BAP. Like I've seen some crazy BAP windows from up here, but that's pretty much the only people that have to like remember this part of the map exists. I think I'm always a big proponent of splits. I watched a lot of Spylo, so that's where it all comes from. And so split play, especially on Lijiang, I don't think it's that bad at all. And I think if we just play him correctly, it should feel pretty decent. This
about the triangle formula.
The triangle formula, I think so. When I hear that, like my first thought is like off angles and stuff, I guess. Or like I guess I've heard of 2-2-1 splits or like 2-3 splits, and so that's usually what I aim for. The 3-1-1. 3-1-1. Oh well, I guess if you have like ball tracer, yeah, they could be ones.
Yeah.
And then the hit scan with the double spore pocket. And the core, yeah, I guess I've heard they call that. This is probably your best bet on the longer sightlines of the map. Probably like Cass is probably the only hit scan that would feel good inside White Room. For my splits, I think my Kiriko could feel good here.
You can play Soj.
You play Soj. You can play you play Soj. Let's just say Soj.
Soj is a little bit better than
yeah.
Because Soj can get around a lot faster with the slide.
Especially, yeah, control maps especially. I love the circle design, which we have a Soldier player. The only problem is there's not many open sightlines. There's really only one open sightline for Soldier, and so yeah.
Nice
so Sojourn would be nice here.
Damage down chokes are really nice, and there are a lot of chokes on this map. And
this is true.
Getting out with the slide.
So Kiri Soj on this split could feel pretty decent. For tank, if we have like a ram setup, like I guess you could hold this corner depending on where they rotate. If they rotate split, we can match them here at this corner. Like we're probably not going to be able to set up early on this corner. And if we have, we've kind of already won most of the map. But either rotating to hold this corner or rotating to hold this pillar.
First fight, we're holding for pillar.
Pillar.
And on pillar with maybe angles closer to point with from our like mobile flex or mobile DPS or outside of dojo for
I've sent Tracer Lucio to fight White Room. Well, Lucio, now that I think about it. Lucio, it's up to my Lucio player, I'd say. I think he can pick and choose because he can work inside a room on the right side there and help tank with it. And Tracer can kind of solo push this as needed depending on what I feel for.
Tracer can go alone because there are a lot of health packs, and if you go outside of the area on point, just outside of just back, there's a ledge with the mega, and right back to your team, right? But on the rock.
Yeah, there's a lot of health packs. There's two. There's one in, two on the outside, and the mega.
Completely feasible with sending your Tracer alone to get something like maybe take some distraction and let your Sojourn or your hit scan pop off.
That should all feel good. I would agree with that. And then what was I gonna say? So teams will either match that kind of split setup, or a lot of teams will 5-man rotate through Right Room, and you'll see that a lot. That's why I kind of prefer the split setup, is just because if we can get my Soj Kiri spamming down this choke out of White Room, like I don't know how that's going to go for them. And then obviously, like my Ram, as he sees the rotation, will meet him kind of here. Maybe not die here as the first kind of amp speed or the Juno ring or whatever they're running kind of comes. We can kite to here, and then if we need to, we can kite to back a point and touch at the last second. That would be kind of a general progression.
If they go White Room and we go bridge and we're faster, which we should be faster because of
and then yes, we could also.
Then if we are we are faster and they go white room, then we win the fight 70% of the time because we have so much more space on
Yes.
point. We have point set up. If they go white room as a 5-man stack, all of us go pile point, all of us fight point, because that's instantly a choke. Look at that choke.
Yes, but probably if I'm the hit scan or something from like this corner. So like I wouldn't be okay. I wouldn't be on point. I want to clarify.
From like a further corner, and then you're well,
or can you see? You can't see from here, so.
And then they'd back up. If there's too much pressure, your tank would back up behind the pillar.
Yeah.
The main pillar on point, or if there's even more pressure than that, they can back up behind.
So this should feel good, yeah. So my Soj, my ass, my hit scan should feel good down this choke, and then Kiriko will have LOS, and so we can kind of like almost like tiny little angles even here, and we have LOS of my tank as he kites. My Lucio, honestly, like just the whole of point feels good for Lucio, I'd imagine. And he can kind of walk around wall climbs and go for cheeky boops and stuff. And then my tracers just kind of, as they go to walk forward, ready to hit their tail, ready to make it painful for them to try and 5-man push into this. And so that's generally how we're going to set it up. Defense, if we win all those fights, you can early poke, but you really don't want to fight here. I'm trying to think. There's not really anywhere else you want to fight with the comps that we're building. And so they're probably just going to force that 5-man rotation over and over again. And as long as we don't screw up ult fights, we have the superior map control, and that should feel pretty good for us, is my thought process.
The only thing that changes from our first fight plan and our whatever else, or the rest of our setup, is that for the majority of it, our tank is going to be set up on the front part past the post. Like on right against their bridge, and that's where they're gonna try and poke and try and take the fights. Especially if they're on a brawl character, and then you can back up either the pillar if they're going through bridge. You can back up the point if you guys are all set up point, if they're 5-man stacking bridge, or you can or if they're going to bridge, or if they're going to white room, sorry, you can all pile off of bridge and go pile them and set the kill box up again.
Yep. Yep. And I think we play those kind of split setups. We should feel pretty good. I don't like 5-man rotations on this a lot because this is a nasty looking choke for Sojourn disruptors and rails and Kiri headshots. And if we play Ramattra, we play Orisa. This is a lot of headshots, a lot of damage coming in, and slows on the rotation too. If you're Ram or you're Orisa, well, I guess less so Orisa, but Ramattra, hold your slow for the amp. If we want to run Ana, yeah. If we can keep our, we can keep the Ana up.
If you're playing Ana Break Winston and you're doing the same setup, think of the Ana nades.
Yeah, the Ana nades are fat. I do have some Ana players, so we can work on it. I'm not sure about the Brig. I think the Lucio would feel better on most of the points of Lijiang. So if anything, I would Ana Lucio as my first thought, and then
Lucio with Ana is a little bit of a struggle because you really have to rely on your Ana to hit their shot.
I know.
A lot of pressure. So
I understand.
If you really want to play the Lucio, you can play Kiri. But
we have Red Soldier on this one, I will say. All right. So there are a lot of things different teams can do. I think we'll run into a lot of teams that love the Symmetra TP point. And basically, I'll go over how we should attack because we don't have any Symmetra players, so I don't want to run any of that. They'll sim TP to point. We're not going to match it. They're going to set up on point. They're going to set up their turns, and there's going to be basically they're going to bunker down as best they can. They're probably going to have a BAP and a Lucio, and their hit scans are going to kind of be set up towards the back. Their Ram or their Rhine or whatever they run is going to be set up towards the front. Lucio is going to be wall riding inside. All right, so the basic way to beat this, because we're not going to match that kind of brawl setup, we're going to play for our splits. We see this TP point. That's fine. It's whatever. All right, so my tank sets up here is a good one. My Kiriko and my hit scan can kind of play in main, kind of poking, shooting for kunais, shooting for big disruptors, or we could probably hold our disruptor because we're waiting for a 3-2-1. I don't think I have any Sombra players, but Tracer is going to feel pretty responsible for wrapping here. If I have a Cassidy, they're going to feel pretty responsible. They could feel decently comfortable kind of holding corner here and wrapping. Tracer obviously can walk all the way behind. It might take a Lucio pocket. We can talk about that a little bit. And then if my Lucio doesn't want to +1 my Tracer, then ready to amp speed with my tank. Unless we have like I delay because if we have a Junker Queen and Shout, like it should feel pretty decent with like a Junker Queen Shout on main. And do not go early before point unlocks because I don't. There's no point in taking a fight before point unlocks in my opinion. I've never understood that. That is just the big one. Not true. Always go for the big one.
You can getting set up before point is really important, and if you can get a pick before the fight starts, that's even better.
Correct, but one fights outside of control points don't net you objective progress, I guess is my biggest thing. A one fight for one's fights. Like we get the map control and that's good, but to win a fight for less. Yeah.
It's a fine line. Once you kill 3, you're good. Once you kill 3 or 4, and you can't instantly kill the 5th one or the 4th one, you're out. You're on point.
So remember to play for our splits. Remember that there are the lanes of the side that we're going to have to push if we're putting into any kind of Ryan sim comp that's going to TP to point. We see that a lot. And then defense. This one's a little more interesting. We have this high ground where some people forget about. Sometimes divas and stuff will like come roaming through here. If we have a diva, it's not a terrible place for my diva to hold. Just kind of marking this until they're ready to walk out of choke. So anyways, my tank generally holding corner as we kite kind of back here to next pillar towards point. That'll be our kite position. Just general spam from my Kirikos and hit scans kind of towards here. We have to be careful about this is the big flank when we're defending the retake. So my tracers, maybe my tracer plus Lucio are ready to mark, ready to fight, make sure they can't wrap around and affect the just giant damage being thrown into the choke here. Let's see. And then this is not a great, well, this is a difficult choke and it might cost them an ult, but they'll probably also just amp speed if they're a 5-man thing. Amp speed, TP to point, do it again, set it all up, give them flip. Give them flip if we need to, because we are not usually set up in most of the comps we run to fight them on point. So just take your time and set your splits up accordingly. And as long as we get map control, it should feel pretty decent. If nobody's set up here, yeah. Oh, that was my big one. Is I don't have anyone really set up coast side, and I do remember that against some ball stuff. That was a difficulty. I think my hit scan. Let's see, where would my hit scan kite to? My hit scan kiting kind of here. We're playing. This might be too far, depending on the. We'll say Ramatra with the Soj plus a Tracer Kirilu.
You're playing on statue, and you kite back either to Mega or you go to point, depending on where your team is holding.
I have either Tracer plus Lucio or Tracer set up here to mark this flank and give up space as needed. Let's see.
That's good.
And then, yeah, I would think I would want the kite to point because they either 5-man rotate onto my Tracer, which is going to suck. My Tracer's going to live. They 5-man sim TP to top, which we don't care. We set up our splits. We'll be fine. Or I guess they try to run down my tank.
Also have a pinch,
yeah, pin tiny pinch as they do this, yes. And then as they try to run down my tank, I mean, they're running out in the open into Tracer Lucio pinching on behind, either or Lucio speed my tank out, plus hit scans bam down main. So that's all going good. I think a lot of times we're just going to see either Sim TP to Mega. Sometimes you'll see that, which is a weird flip, but kind of just adjust your splits from there. So if my tank was holding here and they Sim TP to Mega, I think they have to walk out a little bit, so just keep that in mind. They sim TP over to Mega, and then that's kind of a map flip. My hit scan and my Kiri kind of just got to rotate back a point, and then we become the team who has control of point. And this is going to be important, where we need to be able to set up in a position where we can mark flanks effectively, as either maybe a Kiriko or Soj might be forced to, or my Lucio is kind of set up inside, keeping his eyes on this. If I have a Cassidy, same deal. So just whatever is on your split or your side is your responsibility, basically. And then my tank kind of holding this first corner can kite back, and he ult pushes to here and then touch it last minute if needed, or, either side they're symmetrical. I think that covers Lijiang, at least all of it. Can't think of any other common comps that I've missed. I think I've mentioned ball stuff, but ball stuff is less so like the sim TP to point, less so of the sim TPs to the enclosed areas, and they're going to take the entirety of the map. Balls.
It's going to be a lot more mega play, like outer mega play.
Yeah. Ball and Tracer are going to, like, basically if we have a ball company, like probably ball Som Tracer or like ball Tracer hit scan, and they're going to play the map kind of wide. Like ball's going to run here, maybe set up over here. They're going to have some people in choke. They're going to have some people fighting over here. They're going to play the entirety of the map and probably have support resources split pretty wide. And in that case, we're set up on our splits to fight pretty decently. If they run something like that, probably better for my Tracer Lucio to split together in case they're also running Tracer Lucio, and then we just kind of match them there. Because my tank in a ball comp is less likely to get run at or run over and all that other stuff. And then, yeah, so we fight what's on our splits. We mark what's on our splits is going to be the biggest thing into another ball comp. All right, so that's Lijiang. Okay. First point, I wouldn't play much Winston. There's really only this verticality. If you're gonna play, maybe a Diva would feel half decent just because of the damage output and like the close ranges. Sometimes I don't think we have any Reaper players, but like a Reaper, like as Sigma, sometimes I hold this corner, sometimes I poke this corner, and then my kite is kind of back to this corner. So either tank or like, well, I guess your other close range DPS would need to help here. So like tank and I like this forward hold a little bit, tank and flex DPS. And then I've seen a lot of Laris, I've seen a lot of Zans, but we don't have any Zen players. I don't think we have any Lari players. But like Annas and hit scans.
I can play Zen.
Ooh, look at you. My only concern is like this sightline does feel really good, but sometimes we may go double flex support, but like yes, like this sightline feels good, but like sometimes we set up with like maybe we have a Wu-Yang. Just don't forget that like to set up this crossfire from this choke so they can't all LOS us from the one lane. It's the biggest thing that I've seen gone wrong in some of these defenses.
Tank usually plays close to the choke, and then depending on how fast or slow they are and what side of that choke they're playing on, they either back out into the room and back out past like the rubble and on a point, or they go behind the car or behind the rubble that you're standing at right now, and they play like not up those stairs, but back behind that like bench or the thing behind you. Yeah, you see that cart?
Mm-hmm.
Right around there.
Mm-hmm.
And you try and back behind that big pillar we were just talking about.
Yes. So this will feel good. So yeah, my biggest thing for defending here is just remembering that like this crossfire, if we have either a Wu-Yang with I don't think we have an Lari, like a BAP or a Lari with a Wu-Yang. So we have like double range support options of some kind, like even Kiriko versus Lucio. Just make sure our splits, like we have the one lane and we have the other lane so that they can't all LOS us. We all want juicy damage down this choke, of course. But like if we're all set up here, they can LOS us to the left, where it's a little more difficult if we have the LOS to deny some cover on this side, and that will make their initial pushes a little more difficult. All right, so they're gonna push, they're gonna rotate. Some people rotate through room, some people TP, some people rotate through this room. But anyways, we're gonna lose some space eventually, unless we play it perfectly. So yes, we have an initial kite back to this corner. If we've set up our hit scans here, they can kite. Ooh. You can probably kite. Well, I play a lot of BAP, and I play BAP on this side because I like this kite to height. And that sightline's, the sightline's decent-ish. You should be like, this is your last stand usually. But sometimes hit scans and BAP can like get away with this juicy sightline. And you're just trying to get as much damage off before they close the distance on you. And then my Tracers, my Reapers, my Genjis can kind of fight on mini with maybe some Lucio help. I kind of think, my tank would be solo contesting here unless we had like a Tracer or Genji to help. Maybe a Reaper. That's general fight. I guess there's not too much to say about first fight. Just remember side splits. Remember these lanes that need to be contested wherever you set up. If we have a flex DPS setting up kind of close and marking this as they rotate through, and then marking these flanks as they rotate through there. That's first. And then remember that it caps super quickly. So just be careful about C9s and stuff of that nature. All right. Both attacking and retaking second. This is the most painful part of the map for sure. I just want to point some things out. I don't think any of our setups are going to be very 5-many. I think we're going to have, maybe we on a Brig, maybe we Winston, maybe we Diva, maybe we Tracer, maybe we Genji, maybe we have a hit scan. Just remember some split retake options, okay? So obviously there's underneath castle. Everyone knows about this, and fighting here is going to feel good for... Yeah, some Farah, because the verticality present is pretty good. Setting up underneath, and they're going to mark you here, but at least you have Mega. A lot of people know about this. And a lot of people 5-man rotate through here. Other options that people don't consider as much is the rotation through here as best we can as hit scan and stuff gives us, decent off angles away. Probably going to need to commit a movement cooldown to get to the next corner. And this whole transition is rough. Or we make this rotation when our tank engages, so we have it for free. And then fighting as we can on this corner, watching carefully if we're getting pushed. I don't think you should be able to get this far uncontested, but if you do, I mean, this is Merry Christmas.
The important part in general is that you're trying to fight for the top of castle.
Absolutely.
With one person maybe going to cart.
Yes. Yes, and I can talk about cart pressure a little bit.
Yeah, it depends on the comp, but primarily it's going to be your flex DPS like your tracer taking cart.
Yes, it helps a lot, but I've had success with. I'll cover this a bit, but don't forget about setting up through these stairs as well. I've had success with as Winston or as D.Va. Like you're gonna take a lot of damage, but if your team can help alleviate some of that pressure with their own damage, if you can get cart here, this is a really good setup onto a backline that like shouldn't be here anymore. But if they choose to stay, if there's a brig or anything as Winston, I can avoid whip shot because I'm set up underneath her and I kind of just jump directly above her, so her whip shot isn't really going to be able to knock me away. So this can help you as Divas and Winstons pushing cart, which we're like, why is my tank on cart? But it's not really for the cart pressure, it's for your setup, because this setup right here on a break backline, boom, bubble, and then this is a good engage.
That was the comp I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you have your D.Va a lot
yes, D.Va great at cart push, Winston pretty decent at cart push because these characters can go back and forth very easily.
And D.Va has DM a lot, and
yes.
Boosters is really important. I really want to stress that boosters is like the best cooldown on this map.
I'm trying to think. Would you ever? This is kind of underutilized. Really, this is if you want to get out from. Yeah, I was like, this is a tracer thing. This is forgotten about. Does that wrap? Yeah, it does wrap. Does wrap. Okay.
Don't go here.
This wraps here. This is closed right now, but this does wrap here because it's a spawn door. Yeah.
It goes around to the stairs.
Yes. That I think this is like just a quick mention for my flex DPS and stuff. So maybe your tank shoves this door and this is now useless. But if your tank shoves this door on we've won castle, we've won fight, and my tank's like, okay, I want to make their recontest harder, and so I'm going to shove this door. This gives you a half decent setup that most people don't think about as a flex DPS to control of mega room and make this retake from this door a little difficult. Don't die for this. That's a big thing, obviously, but be very careful. Maybe we have a Lucio, maybe we have a Brig pushing cart, whichever our main sport is, probably it'll feel better. And then I think more hit scans. If you're Ashe or Soj here, I think this could feel good. Freya, I haven't mentioned Freya, but same concept. Like obviously you have this, I just think the cover's not as good, and I think your sightlines might feel better playing for here on final recontest right here. Is there anything I'm missing?
As the D.Va thing, where you have your team on the high ground, you have your flex DPS off doing something else in range of your team or whatever, and then you have your tank pushing cart.
Yep, absolutely. And then third is miserable. There's really only one useful flank. There's technically this, but yeah, it's not very feasible.
Flanks on this map.
I was gonna say, like, if you're stuck on Tracer, this is pretty much your only option. And you just have to play this extremely carefully, and you don't even really... No, there's a health pack. Yeah, there's a mini here. So this is your only option, and you're just going to be stuck fighting here, which is not going to feel too great, but that's pretty much the only way we can help create space. Winston, D.Va are going to feel terrible at this point now because there's not much to work around in terms of setting up. Sigma, Orisa, Ramatra... May also, yes, it's very stuck and choke. This is going to come down to this last point. Honestly, is going to come down to if we still have a flex DPS, they still want to keep taking that flank route. Just timing that pressure with our tank and making sure at this point we don't screw up our ult fights. They'll probably hit scans and stuff. We'll probably set up here. Make sure if I'm Sigma or Marissa marking this.
On attack, you can stick your head scan on Symmetra, and that could be a great strategy.
We could try it.
Really strong in this objective.
Correct, but you're just doing it for the frontline pressure, not with the TP. I mean, I guess that's kind of why. Like, I guess Symmetra gets a bad rap, but I still prefer people that have actually played Symmetra. But if we just want more frontline pressure from a hit scan roll, I guess this is fine. Yes. And the beam is going to feel good. You kind of beam right around this corner, force them back. And then you can even throw up fake TPs to like freak out their hit scan and then just keep with the frontline pressure. So yeah, we haven't talked about it too much. And then if you ever are about to win last fights, don't forget about this high ground. Don't forget about this mini. And stuffing choke here as best you can as tank or as flex DPS. That seems to be it for Eichenwalde. Were there any other pain points I wanted to cover? We have not had any good Suravasa maps. Let me go into that. Oh, I guess I can talk about. I'm going to go back and cover defense on second. Yeah, let me cover defense on second. That's a big one.
Second is kind of boring because it's going to be either your flex DPS fighting cart whenever you need to, or your tank fighting cart, and everybody else just sits on the top of the castle.
If we have Winston Diva, yeah, they'll be doing mini drops, contesting cart within LOS of hit scans and stuff. Like we can't set up here. This is a little vulnerable, but it's not the worst spot in the world. If we have Wu Yangs and stuff or soldiers, you can swing wide on left. Just making sure that all of my range damage doesn't all stack here. Like this is obviously a great sightline. But if we have multiple options for range damage, more than like 2, just making sure we're splitting our angles, splitting wider to deny as much cover as possible and make this high ground as oppressive as possible. And then if we have that much range pressure, be very careful about dropping to contest because this is the power point. And if they're just going to try and force cart underneath, we still have this, and we really don't need to touch for a long, long time. Really abuse how powerful this position is. I think that's the biggest thing that I see wrong in our Eichenwalde stuff. All right, I'm going to cover Suravasa. All right, so we got 5 points of flashpoint to cover. Okay. So I would say there's 2 rollouts to this first point. It's kind of an interesting point. If your comp does not have a lot of ranged offerings, which I think is almost a requirement for this first point, you're going to want to roll out right side, and you're going to want to set up to push them here because they probably already have point control, and they probably already have, yeah. So we probably won't run stuff without range damage because I think the better rollout on Suravasa is some kind of Kiri Wuyang, some kind of Soj, some kind of Ash. And then most people don't ever think about this rollout with the SimTP speed to get to here. And I think of my Ash, I think of my Soj and Soj and Ash can also slide and coach gun top, and you have this. We could run either Diva or Winston, and you have this little bit of verticality. It's probably not going to feel too great because you can still get poked out pretty heavily from the choke. But if we're feeling frisky, we can absolutely set it up. If not, just kind of a general brawl tank setup, you can maybe hold first choke, but this might lose you a lot of resources. Plus your Kiriko, your Sojourner back here. So you're probably going to feel better off holding these chokes on the front of point, and then as you need to kite back, you can use this for momentary cover. And then there's not really, yeah, that's your last point of cover. So this is your last kite on this point. It's kind of this pillar as best you can. Or if you just feel better, you might want to tuck yourself in the corner and do as much damage until you die. But really, we're playing for longer sight lines. We can play for Wu Yang spam down choke. We can play for Kiri spam. We can play for Soj spam. Our flex DPS and my Lucio, if we run a Lucio, the big flanks, the big downside to this is that these lanes are very easily won by Tracers and Genjis. Genjis are great at contesting hit scan that want to take that, so just be on the lookout for that. And then Tracers and stuff will kind of wrap around and hit my backside, so just be careful there. And so that's kind of first defense. Let me see if we win it. Let's see how we would set up. So always early poke, early scouting. We want to see where they're coming from. Most teams, I mean, sometimes they'll split retake where they'll match you on the far right and they'll match you on the far left. But spawn is over here, so we just poke real quick, get some quick scouting. We're not fighting here usually. This doesn't feel too great to fight. My kid scan can poke here early, about here, and then we just kind of slide back. Keep sliding, keep fighting, keep poking. And then eventually we want to kite to the backside of point as best we can. Maybe set up our height for our hit scan for our Kirikos. This should feel pretty good, and this is probably how we want to go about building comps and defending this first objective. Now, I got to go find all of them, actually. This is going to be funny. Let me just go over here to the right. All right. I think the biggest part of this is understanding that this high ground is actually pretty important, and not only this high ground, but this coast side for my Tracer flanks if we want to go this way. My Genjis, a lot of people forget about this. So setting up this high ground for my hit scans as the fight is either breaking out on choke. That's so let them walk through choke if you're my tank. If you're my Winston or you're my Diva, you can kind of hold these spots. You can walk these spots. These are fine. And then just don't forget this high ground is pretty important. Sometimes they'll attack from here, sometimes they'll attack from here, or wherever we are on the map. So you can, as a tank, use these forward high grounds. If you're a Winston or a Diva, hold here. If you're just a brawl tank, it's probably better to start up here, fight, like poke here, get an early scouting. And if they want a 5-man push you on height, we can set that up. My flex DPS also have flank options. Yeah, flank options through Mega Side here and through this little mini room to like hit the tail as they want to push. So that's that map. Just don't forget, please, this high ground area is important, and my tanks remember to fight inside of my Soj Kiri LOS. Let's go cover this one. This one, it's a little more boring, honestly. Basically, my hit scans, my Kiris are going to feel best on the... If we're fighting on point, my hit scans, Kiris are going to feel the best on the backside of point. If we're early poking on a retake or something, this angle here is kind of broken. You can get a Kiri headshot. That's usually a kill. Some Soj early poke. If we're more brawly, we might want to rotate through this enclosed room here before we make our push onto point. This is going to feel good. Sometimes Reinhardt comps, sometimes Junker Queen comps will rotate through here. This is also great for little tracer flanks and my flex DPS. But this point really is about setting up my hit scans, my Kiris to eventually rotate back here. My tank can hold forward corner and then as needed for an ult push or something, kite back and hold this corner until last second we need to touch. And so that's going to be that point for the most part. Don't forget about this mini. This mini is a big thing. If we're poking early or something, we're Soj and we got to slide out. We got the mini. That's really the only use there, I guess. That was the biggest one. No. So that is that one. This one, let's go. Oh man, I should have gone ball just to be a little bit faster. I wish I could remember the names of all 5 of them. Oh, there are going to be a lot of ball comps on our Flashpoint stuff. If teams have ball players, that's a big one. But you'll also see a lot of Junker Queen stuff. All right, this point. Let's see. All right, we'll say they're attacking from here. To note, if we want early poke, this is... We can actually... There's really a long lane for early poke here that people don't think about. That would be their spawn over there. So you can poke them from this choke to this choke and then still keep backing. And they have to walk through this choke or flank on right. So that's going to be the big one. If they're walking through main choke here, probably want to hold this corner. Be mindful. My hit scans, this is kind of broken if you can get up here. I think Soj no double slide can get up here, but once you take double slides, you can't. Ash with Coach Gun can. Freya can. This is pretty broken for their walk up. This is a lot of spam, a lot of pain. But you have to be mindful of like Genjis and Tracers feel good in here. So they might rotate through here first and then try to hit from right. This next side is kind of an interesting combination. It reminds me of Busan, where there's like tight angles and tight corners, but there's also this long general lane. So like if we ever play Wuyong, I think Wuyong could feel great here because Wuyong has like just this kind of lane to throw his orbs down, and it's kind of easy for him to hit just one shot on a Genji or a Tracer and force them out. So that's just a preference thing. If we're retaking, probably want to split push, probably don't want a 5-man. There's just these long open spaces that their hit scans are going to have pretty decent sightlines on. It's going to feel pretty uncomfortable. All right, this is, I believe this is the 5th and final map. So let's just go ahead and see what we got here. Let's say, I'll talk about the point fight in a second, but let's say we won it and we're setting up to defend their choke. I like setting up goofily here as Winston Diva, get a little poke in, get a little sport charge going. If they force you out, it's fine, just drop. This is not where we want to fight. Mind any Reapers, Tracers, Genjis rotating through this room and thus rotating all the way around to left. Note if there's a Tracer, they can double or triple blink to here. This is a risky play, but they do have a mini, and with the health pack perk, it wouldn't be too bad. So Mind, Flex DPS rotating through right. Where would a hit scan set up? This is technically a long angle, but you better bring a sport pocket with you. There's a lot of rooms, a lot of stuff for Flex DPS to be really good at this point. I'm trying to think. Basically, my Kirikos and my hit scans are kind of stuck. What are some lanes? I guess you kind of set up for poke stuff. You can set up here. You can rotate away to the back side of point here, and then this is kind of where you're going to be stuck for the most part. It's kind of on main. This point's a little uninteresting for hit scans. Not much interesting high ground setups. You can get up here, but I don't know how much you can see. I guess you can see the point fight, so that's something to keep in mind for Ashes and Freyas. I think those are the only characters who can get up here. This could be interesting setup on attack for my Winstons and my Divas. Kind of use the high ground to keep staging and stuff. But yeah, this point's probably one of my least favorites. And I think that is all of Suravasa. So I hope this was a little bit helpful for everyone. If you kind of skim through the recording, you have any questions about like, hey, what if we tried this? What if we tried this? Just let me know. But I wanted to use the script block, yeah, because it's frustrating to watch people who don't know how to play the maps that were in our pool, and I can cover the rest. Obviously, I just wanted to cover the ones most recently that are kind of a pain point. And so hopefully this clears up a lot of confusion, and you can borrow ideas from this and we can try them out in future scrims. But it's just also getting more comfortable with the different map types. How should we think about what angles feel good for our characters? What compositions do we want to build that'll feel good on this map, and all that other stuff. So thank you. Bonk and Eggs showed up tonight. Thank you guys for bearing with me. I hope I didn't keep y'all too long. And then after this, I'll probably go either to sleep or go play. But thank y'all for showing up. I hope everyone enjoyed. I'm going to go end the recording now.